You can click it on, you'll see your slide. There we go. Okay. All right. So what I've asked the panelists to do, because at the end of the day, in my discussions with both Jane and with Najib, it is very evident that both organizations have done a lot of work with respect to food safety culture, which I've asked them to share. From Matlou's perspective, I've also asked her to give us a bigger picture perspective in terms of her involvement with many organizations at the CGCSA, FSI, and what her observations are. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask each panel member to go through a short presentation, and then I'm going to ask some questions, and then if we have time, based on the allocated time for the program, I'm going to open it up to the audience. Okay, so the only rule is no tomatoes or rotten eggs. Okay. And in terms of the questions, they'll try their best, but the whole idea really is for you to learn from what they have already done. I'm sure they'll tell you some of it has worked, some of it hasn't worked, but these are like real life people, you know what I'm saying? And we want to share from their real life experiences. So Jane, over to you. Won't you tell us a little bit about what Interfoods do?
Okay, so obviously Interfood provide quite a lot of products into a major retailer, and we've gone on a journey for changing our culture, for a food safety culture, about 4 years ago. So I can give you some insights in what we've done, what's worked and what's not done. Coming from the UK, it's been a food safety culture for many, many years. So, sorry, can you hear me now? Okay. So coming from the UK, it's been a food safety culture for many, many years. And as a food safety scientist, it's been my job to actually create a food safety culture and not just a food safety system. So, actually, I've got the wrong one up next. So this is our visions and our values. So when we embarked on this journey, we have 4 values which underpins everything that we do. So within this, we have unwritten ground rules. Now, these are ground rules that aren't actually written down. It's in things that everything we do. Hang on, let me find that one, because I did that one the wrong way around. Okay. So what we actually do is we've actually got a handshake. So for each one of our 4 pillars, we've got a handshake. So change is our friend, so it's an open hand. We have what we say we do, which means that literally what we say we do. So we are passionate about success, and we also, every day, we show we care. Okay. But the things that we don't do, or what we think we do, is a good job. So we put in a good food safety system, and by this we've got accreditation from different bodies, we've got HACCP, we do training, we communicate. But what we must do that we don't see to stop the sinking ship is have good leadership and have your culture embedded into your business. And by this I mean your people. If you don't empower your people to do the right thing, then you don't have a good business. We also include equipment. You've got to give them the right equipment to do a good job. You've got to have the colleagues' trust, because otherwise there's huge consequences within the food business. And you have to empower your people. We acknowledge them, which was a change in the way that we did business, and we also give them some rewards. So the tools for doing the right thing. Okay, so how we changed our culture. So this is our colleagues' handbook, and I call it colleagues' handbook, not employees' handbook, because we need to be able to empower our people. We want to make our colleagues feel part of the team. It is a handbook that's actually a behavioural code of conduct, not a book of rules of do's and don'ts. Okay. Training. Obviously, there's a difference between training and education. Obviously, we're all educated in this room because we're all professionals, but then there's all our colleagues that might not have had good education, so it's about adapting our training methods to them. We actually use an international standards, different levels, because in the UK you have to have basic food hygiene training to be able to handle any food. So we actually adapt the training to different levels and based on the different products that we produce. We'll also do it in different languages. I think it's important that we recognise, even though we all might speak English, we might speak Zulu, that when we actually train people, it can get lost in translation. So it's important to be able to give them in their own language or have an interpreter on site. You also need to make it very real to them, make it personal, which I'll show you just now. Empowerment, you've got to show them that everybody feels like they want to be valued. We all go to work and we want to be valued as a worker. So that means anybody that's on the shop floor, from the janitor to the senior management. And obviously it's got to be led at the top. And reinforcement. When you're doing change within your culture and your business, there's consequences obviously for reinforcement. But what you have to do is, as well as telling them the negatives, obviously product recall, what you have to do then is also show them the positives by acknowledgement and reward. So for visual aids, I think visual aids speak 1,000 words. So people can't see bacteria. We all know what bacteria is in this room, but our general workers don't. They can't see it. So make it real. So swab their hands before and after washing, and then grow it up on a plate and show them what it means. Cough and sneeze on a plate, show them how far bacteria travels. The other thing is, if you then do them a short multiple choice question to make sure that they've actually got your understanding. And that goes through anything that you're changing within your business. Providing the basics. Okay, you can't install a good culture if you don't provide them the equipment. If you don't give them enough welly racks, they're not going to put the wellies on the racks, they're going to leave them on the floor. You can give them coat hangers, otherwise they'll put the coats on top of the wellies, which then contaminates the floor. Even if you give them the tools and equipment, such as hose reels, sometimes they'll still put the hose end on the floor. Take a swab of it, grow it up on a plate, show them what they do when they then spray that water on your food contact surfaces. Communication was our biggest thing that helped change our culture. You have to make it real, you have to make it visual. We have communication boards through, just as you walk in through the doors. We've got TVs in the canteen that shows hand washing procedures to reinforce your values. We've got Hall of Fame. So if they've found something, I'm going to come on to that shortly, we put them on a Hall of Fame. If you also have your notice boards where you find your foreign objects throughout your factory, they can pick them up and go and put them somewhere. So you make them feel part of actually what you're trying to do, and it's not just a technical and QA job to go around and do that. And obviously you can have traffic lights. I've not put any up there, but you can do traffic lights. Have a smiley face or a red, amber, green, to say how well they're actually doing. And then also have information boards. So obviously the current topic has been listeria, but it all moves forward. So next month it could be salmonella, it could be anything else. So if you make it visual for them, they'll be more engaged. So we really need to empower our colleagues through recognition. And this can be really, really simple, guys. It can just be a certificate if they've found a foreign body within your food. It can be a star of the week. They can have changed one of your processes or have given a suggestion. You can get a cup for recognition, which they can take home and share with their families. They share it for a month, the whole team. And give them a free drink and a snack. It absolutely costs minimal amount to make them feel like they're valued and they are a team member. And again, our CEO will do mentions in the newsletter of people that have done an outstanding job. We have webinars, again, where we'll show everyday people, not just managers and supervisors, doing a great job. And then their faces will also go in the canteens. And I think that when people actually see people doing a good job, it's human nature to mimic it. So you find it's contagious, and it then becomes an unconscious way of working. We all play a vital role in food safety culture. So what will you do now?
Thank you, Jane. Right. Excellent. Now, did you recognize a whole bunch of neurological or neuroscience principles that Jane is applying? The fact that people belong and that they should be included and that they are acknowledged and that they are rewarded. The positive reinforcement aspect. I really like the Hall of Fame. I think that's really cool. Did you hear the 4 years that they've been working on this? And I think this is important because it's obviously not a quick fix. It takes a while to turn the big ship from a culture perspective. I think it's something that we just have to take into account. It's not going to happen in 4 months. I don't think. So let me ask you some questions, Jane. Do you think your largest customer has played a role in this, or has this been a company initiative?
No, this has been a company initiative.
Okay.
It starts, and as Dr. Lewis says earlier, we actually changed our slogan. So our slogan was out to inspire, and we actually started by saying inspiring beyond food. We want to inspire beyond food to our people, because our people are our business, which keeps us in a job.
Absolutely. I also heard you mention something specific with regards to leadership and leading from the top, and I have to do this. Jane has been promoted, and I have to say that the organization has really demonstrated, I think, through the organizational structure how important food safety is by putting you right at the top of the pile now. So congratulations on that, but I think it emphasizes that aspect. Yes. She's got that C now, she's a C something, that C sweet.
I really didn't want that, but anyway.
But it demonstrates commitment to the aspect.
It is, and I have to say that we have an inspirational leader who wants to do right for the people of this country and make them feel valued. So it's not just about providing food for our major customer, it is about giving back to the people and making them feel part of the company.
We heard earlier with regards to, some of the South Africanisms, a couple of people raised in coming from the UK, obviously, she can't help the accent, but coming from the UK, have you noticed a difference between the national cultures? And has this played a role in terms of the business?
Most definitely. In the UK, it's always been instilled in us from the start. So here, you've got such different cultures. So, and again, as somebody mentioned about the hierarchy with men and women within the company, you do find that you then just have to make them all part of a team to try and break down that barrier a little bit. But yes, there's definitely different cultures within your own business as well. So because there's different families. So yeah, it is very, very different, and it has been a long journey, and it will continue to evolve and continue to be a journey. So hang on in there when you're doing it.
Great, thank you so much, Jane. Matlou, you've got the umbrella view. You see a lot from that perspective. So would you like to take us through your presentation, and then we'll ask you some awkward questions.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Matlou Setati. I'm from the Consumer Goods Council in the Division Food Safety Initiative. How I got to find myself in this chair, we met at the ISC Global Conference, and the conversation there sparked something in me, and that's what Linda and Najib sort of spoke to. And indeed, we were brought together by listeria between myself and Linda. That's where we found ourselves. We were sitting there in front of journalists. We had to describe microbiology to journalists. And I remember Lerato saying, "Hey, you mean all my food products have got microorganisms?" And then we were like, okay, we have to calm the situation down. So that's where it all started, and it's getting more and more of a relationship that is exciting. 4th of March, I don't know where you were and what you were doing, but I was at home sitting, and I jumped off my bed, and I got an SMS, 2 of your members are implicated. The minister is going to be on TV. Immediately, I started seeing red. I had started the job in July, and I hadn't settled in. Already, my phone is buzzing. Our PR agent is calling me. Everyone wants to speak to the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa because our members are implicated. Fine. And then that lovely face the people's hero, you do not want the honorable minister to mention your name. You do not want your company to be uttered. We do recalls. It's fine. Let's recall. If it's not safe, let's bring it back and contain it. But let's get out of a situation where we find ourselves where the minister is there and he's uttering our products, he's uttering our company name. And immediately then, my house became a production house. My daughter was fixing my hair, my husband was fixing my Skype account, my son was, what is happening, mommy? I had to be ready. So you can imagine the panic that I had to kick into. And recalls, I think as an industry, as well as educating our consumer, we hide the recalls that we do. So whenever a minister then says there's a recall, it's like we've never recalled ever or anything. So it becomes a shock to consumers. So I don't know how we can best communicate this. I saw them, the health people, they've got a website where they actually publicize their recalls. I don't know if we need to get to that situation where we educate the consumer so that they get into terms with what is happening. If it's not safe, we will recall. That is what we need to communicate to the consumers. It's for their benefit after all. And I just want to take you down memory lane because it's exciting to be sitting here next to Jane and hearing all the good things. Fenugreek. I will never forget this spice. I hope, I don't know how many CEOs except Jane here who are in the room and in equivalence to the quality assurance people that are here. But I have been a quality assurer for most of my life. I have seen it all. I have stopped things. I have investigated things. But fenugreek showed me flames. You inspect a sample because you're in the test kitchen. It smells a little bit funny. You report it. You write all the reports. You do due diligence. And it goes up in the ladder. It gets passed and says, no, we shall use it. It's expensive. Okay, fine. Who am I? The big signature has made the decision. Fine. We use it in production. And then the product comes back. It's smelly wherever. You test it. Indeed, the retention sample is smelly. Now, whose head is spinning? It's mine. It's on me. It is said, fire that girl before she can even say, sir. The gates are open. That was the first instance where I learned how to do track and trace. Yesterday we were discussing traceability. I had to go back to all the files I could find. A clever quality assurer does the trace back. Went back. I found that the batch that was used is indeed the fenugreek. I thought my life was saved. That's what any normal person needs to do if you have to assure that everything is safe. But I got a written warning. Thank you very much. And again, those who have worked with an extruder, you'd know that you need to coat your whatever that comes out of the extruder as it is hot. Imagine the extruder then stops, and when we start production, product come out, but then when you coat it, it's not as cold. So you go there, you do your quality. I love quality control. I enjoy it. You take the products, you stick them, you come with the fat. It's evident. Everyone can see. No, goes up, release it. Fine, let's release. I leave the company and leave. I put my notes down. I got called as I was at the other company to prove what happened to that batch, because now there's returns that are coming. Everyone is angry that they've sold them that product. Go back again, pull out the report. I had saved it with a password. I can promise you that. It had to be pulled out, and it saved and made sense of everything. But what I'm trying to say is I hope and believe that this, I don't want to reveal my age, is the culture that was in existence back then. I just truly hope. And fast forward 2018, I remember these words. We all know who said these words. It was Martin Luther. But 2018, some lady said, I have a dream of all the things that every quality controller experiences should not be happening. There should not be fear. We heard from the presentations, we need to encourage people to come out and report such things. And that then emphasizes and uplifts the food safety culture. And I was like, you know, I wish to live in this era where food safety culture is key from top to bottom. I remember going to an interview. I got there. I was a government official. And in the interview, they said, do you have any question? I said, how serious do you take the food safety and quality division's word? I didn't get the job. So all I can say is all eyes are on us. They are truly are. We are in every fridge, in every pantry of every consumer, globally and locally. I am tired. My fellow people, every Sunday, I'm on carte blanche. I'm sitting like this, holding and pressing down and praying there should not be any food industry scandal, because that's when I start working. Carte blanche, checkpoint, I start working. My day starts on Sunday because something is bound to happen. And I plead with all of us, let's just adopt this food safety culture, and then we will not be there. Consumers will love us, they'll buy our products. Social media, good luck. I won't even say anything, just good luck. But I got to meet Wendy Nola. Just last week we had a soccer conference at the CGCSA. I feared Wendy, but as I sat with her, it then made sense to say, talk to me. If you do not talk to me, then I'll go and write whatever that I can write in my opinion. So that is what I can share with you in terms of what we need to educate the consumer and the consumer journalist. I would say I've added quality there because there's no separation of the two. These two key factors are in no compromise. And hopefully one day, somewhere, we will not have just technical people. We'll have the C-suite, and thank you for bracing us with your presence. We will have that, because I remember we went to Europe on a food waste study tour. I was so amazed that we had a CEO from Carrefour supermarkets. He came to present himself on what the retailer has decided to do to prevent and reduce food waste. I think we need to get to that place in South Africa where decisions are made from the top down, so that it always works. It works. When you pitch it at a high level and it comes down and it gets the seriousness. And let's just manage our events to avoid a crisis. I think we have learned, and I don't believe we will go back there again. That's the takeaway I got from the SOCAP event that we had. That's in me in short. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Matlou. Matlou, if I ask you a couple of questions with regards to the members. I mean, obviously you represent a large organization that has many members. Is there a standpoint on food safety culture from within the FSI? Is it something that the members are talking about, or is it individual members, not as an organization as yet?
I would say it's not as an organization as yet, but every time that anything that has an impact on our members and we can lean on and get into the conversation, we are open to that. And I must say, I remember during the listeriosis conversations, one company came and said, Matlou, let's just share with you what we are doing. And it was just amazing to get to understand where people are moving. Mm-hmm. And we sat with them and they said, Matlou, we've got a dedicated cleaning team. That was amazing for me. If an employee or there's a positive result for listeria, they stop everything. All the employees, as they said, they sort of live in a listeria hunt because they've recognized that listeria is a high risk. Their products are high risk. Mm-hmm. So they live like that. That's their daily life. That's their culture. So when these conversations, you started talking about it, I was like, that company is a representation of what we say if we have to design a food culture. They stop, dismantle everything, and start from scratch. And the whole company is involved. Mm-hmm. And what I liked most was their system of release of products. The last person to release a product is the food safety and quality assurance team. If they have not clicked in the system that you can release, it doesn't go. And it doesn't go round around and circulate and someone signs and overrules. Mm-hmm. The food safety, it takes paramount importance for them. So I'd say it's member per member, but we can then sell the idea to them and keep educating them as well.
Great. I think the situation that Matlou described with regards to being overridden by somebody higher up the chain, can anyone relate to that? Out there, okay? And what does this say about our culture, And I think one of the things that I'd like to ask you is, given your experience with the Human Science Research Council and having to go on carte blanche and all the rest of it, do you think the consumer trusts us?
It's a difficult one. That's why they want their power back. The consumer is now looking to have an app where they will click a product and they want to know everything about the product and where it comes from. So I would say, that's why I'm saying we are in every pantry, we are in every refrigerator, we are in every kitchen. Mm-hmm. Do they have an option not to trust us? They have to eat. Mm-hmm. It's up to us to now meet them halfway and say, we have changed our ways, we can do better, we are doing better, so that we restore the trust. But the consumer is those that understand what's happening, they can live with it. But then those that are still on the other side, we need to restore the trust.
And let's hand over now to Najib, because someone who's had to work very hard in restoring trust over the last few months has probably been RCL Foods because of the near miss with regards to the listeriosis outbreak. So won't you take us through what you're doing as an organization? Because I know, given our discussions, this is not just in response to listeriosis. This is also a project that's been going on for a while. And then we'll talk about the impact that the outbreak has had on the business. Thanks, Najib. Over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Yes, you're right, Linda. In fact, RCL Foods is about 4 years old. So in terms of food safety culture, although the word food safety culture is not articulated, building an organizational culture was the word that was articulated. But a critical part of that organizational culture was to ensure that all functions, in terms of their drive, in terms of their passion, in terms of what they actually stand for, their actual strategy must align to the organizational culture. And one of those functions is quality assurance and food safety. Okay? So in terms of organizational behavior, I think the question that a lot of people need to ask themselves is, what makes you you, or what makes us us? When we look at our different business units and sites, there are, as much as there may be replication in terms of lines and processes, there's one fundamental difference: people. In this country that we live in, we actually have a huge dynamic from one region to another. In some regions, we're actually controlled by political instability. And we have, as an organization, have to think about those things in terms of what do we want to project as an organizational culture, which ultimately at the end of the day results in food safety culture. So in terms of a culture, it's basically based on assumptions, what your people think and what they would believe. Okay, so I think this morning as well, the speakers spoke a lot about culture and being a belief system and it exists in groups and so on. Those behaviors that they project, which is based off their beliefs and their assumptions, is what you actually see projects results, the results that you see on a daily basis. And those results is what you can actually measure in terms of your KPIs and your objectives. So in essence, one needs to ensure that that desired organizational behavior is instilled and is defined first of all. In terms of organizational culture in relation to food safety culture, I think this is the closest thing to what you know from a food safety management system you would see is this pyramid. However, this pyramid would be non-existent if you did not think about the basics such as organizational culture, values or behaviors, or this pyramid and what it stands for would be short-lived because what, as Jane said, what you can't see, the belief system, is what's ultimately going to bring it down. That quicksand that is slowly starting to sink. Okay? If you have defined values, behaviors, and visions, ultimately at the end of the day, your leadership team know exactly what they want to get out of their people. They also have to believe in those values, they need to believe in those behaviors, and they need to believe in those visions in order to let others below them believe in it. That ultimately is what forms the fundamental of that commitment they note on the policy document that you put out there on the wall. Therefore, it is true when they say that food safety culture is actually a prerequisite program as well. Okay, in terms of food safety culture as well, if you look at an organizational culture in terms of definitions, you'll note here that it talks about being amplified by the behaviors of the leaders. It must be embedded. It's basically what you do every day, what you do when other people are not looking. It's shared beliefs, so it cannot be just the leadership of the organization who believes in it, or it cannot be just the guy sweeping the floor or the process leader. It has to be everybody who have the same belief. It must be visible in the way you work, and it must be evident in the behaviors of individuals and groups. And sometimes it is much more evident in the most awkward of times, like in a listeriosis crisis. That's where, for us, it was very apparent to me that as much as from a food safety quality management system perspective, we want to articulate food safety culture, for me, it reaffirmed that actually you do have a culture going here. It's about making sure that everybody believes it exists and looks at what more can we do to make it much more effective. So in RCL, this culture or these behaviors that we desire starts off by articulating our passion, articulating in terms of an organization what our ambition is, in terms of an organization what are our strategic thrusts, the things that we need to look at in terms of moving forward and growing as a business. At the end of the day, we're here to make money, right? But what we do to achieve that and how we behave to achieve that is quite important. So our values are also defined. And talking to the science behind the brain and what happens to the brain is quite important. So you'll see in terms of our values, it's basic things like respect for people. If you expect a floor worker, a general worker, to be proud of that product that they put out, you need to actually give them some level of respect. You need to earn respect to get respect. You need them to also understand that they need to respect the consumer, who happens to be themselves as well. We also talk about seeing and doing things differently, because as much as there are guidance documents and PRP documents and standards that articulate certain things that need to be done, it doesn't stop there. There must be a better way of doing things. Sometimes you may be constrained because of money, and opportunities come along like the listeriosis, and then all of the money is found all of a sudden. But you need to find better ways in the meantime to mitigate risk. Also, uncompromising integrity. So that person must think twice before making a decision on that floor. That process leader must think twice. That factory manager must think twice. Management, when they are presented with a concession must think twice before signing it. And of course, being responsible. And being responsible is not just about, yes, going green and sustainability and so on, but it's also about the everyday things that we do. We then take this further by identifying what we call our standards of leadership. And our standards of leadership is made up of 4 pillars, where we talk about leading performance, leading change. As a new organization, that was a big part of us. So in terms of leading change as an organization, starting from senior management, we went through a process called the journey. So it's tapping into the soft side of an individual to basically ensure that they understand their why and they understand their contribution to the organization. So we went as deep as understanding individual transformational stories. Why do you behave today the way you behave? What changed you? That's how deep we went. It's a very emotional process. I came from the company that was bought over by RCL Foods. So to get to the other side and pull people along was very, very important. But understanding their why, their transformational stories was part and parcel of the journey. We also have the pillar called leading people. And food safety culture and culture in general is about having influence. It's a huge part of it, having influence. And influence does not necessarily mean only the leaders in the organization. It means every single individual, right down to the security guard. And then, of course, leading self. You need to believe in the vision in the first place to be able to execute. And so when it comes to this, it then follows through to what we call our way. And our way talks about behaviors that we desire. We desire being more brave. We desire being more curious, brave enough to stop the line when something is wrong. Brave enough to question management when a decision is made that does not tie into our values. Brave enough to say, despite what the minister said, this is going to be a full-on recall. We will stop selling Vienna's even though it's not implicated. And we will even do anything else that is required to make sure that the consumer has faith in us, that the consumer has trust in us as an organization. Yes, there may not have been regulations in place, but it does not mean that we're going to just now take DOH on and say, we're taking you to court because you have not articulated this. We look at the way forward and see, if it can be done, let's find a way to do it, no matter what it costs. We also talk about being more you, because at the end of the day, authenticity is a key part of our leadership. So when the journey began in terms of RCL Foods, one of the things that the CEO and our MD said to us was, through this journey, there will be people that will stay on this bus and try and get other people on. And there'll be those that will, on their own account, jump off. And that's fine. Because moving forward, we need the right caliber of people with the right behaviors to achieve what we want to achieve. The only way we can get more food to more people more often is if it's actually safe, if it meets our quality requirements, and if they actually trust us. So these passions, the leaderships, our way that we talk about is something that we articulate through various tools in our organization. Individuals within the organization have expectations articulated and defined through documents called our strategy into action, where you define your specific KPIs associated with your function. But one thing is very certain, regardless of the fact that you're a factory manager, somewhere in those KPIs is a quality food safety leg. That you will be, your bonus depends on it. Okay? There is personal development plans, because we give you an opportunity as an individual to state, this is where I need to be developed in order to contribute to the company effectively. And individual development plans. We also have training and education. As Jane just said, there's a difference between training and education. You can be an educated food scientist who does not believe in food safety culture. Yep. Because you could be that food scientist who actually runs the company and your target is just the bottom line. And it actually does happen sometimes. We measure the results, and also we take actions on results, both positive and negative. So there's various tools that we use. So this is basically some of the tools in terms of the targets that we set. Oops, sorry. We have a 360 that we do in the organization every 18 to 24 months, where your peers, your line manager, your subordinates, all have to give you feedback about you as an individual in terms of what are you doing right, what can you improve upon. We have various awareness platforms and communication platforms. So you'll see that I have the communication line running down from the normal awareness boards that you'll find in the factory, through videos that will play. In some factories there will be videos where it's allowable. There will be also something similar to your Hall of Fame. We have the One magazine that goes from site to site every month without fail and goes to each and every department, ask them about the big wins for the month. There are pictures of celebration. On the intranet, we go further. There's also a platform there on the internet in terms of identifying performers, identifying good behaviors. Myself, I featured there as part of the listeriosis crisis. We have an update. And most importantly of all, we have platforms to communicate things that deviate from our way of doing things. I think over here you can see it says HIBO, as in hell no. Phone that line if you are afraid to approach someone. In some instances where we have big issues or issues of concern, we go as far as gathering meetings to get the employee's point of view. And I specifically remember one incident in one of our processing plants where we had a big meeting with employees. And I was taken aback by the reaction from employees where we were trying to figure out the root cause of a problem. And one of the ladies stood up and said, "How can you stand here and think that one of us, the people whose grandparents, parents, and those of us standing here educated are here because of this organization? There is someone amongst us who may have caused this problem. But for those of us whose roots lie in this organization, it can never be us. We need to think differently and take a different approach in time to address this." We address floor workers in that situation. So my advice in terms of going forward in terms of food safety culture is, number one, to take a step back and do what we call the culture audit or gap assessment. You need to know where your organization stands. Simple questionnaires, asking people what do they know and understand about food safety will tell you a lot. You need to create a culture change or upgrade after doing this gap assessment. And something that helps quite a lot in terms of that process is the CREATE model, which basically talks to clarifying values, just redefining in case people forgot, and making sure that it's aligned all the way from top to bottom. Some people in that process may realize, actually, I don't fit in this organization. Reinforce the vision, what we are trying to achieve and what that individual's responsibility is in terms of executing that. Empower behaviors to be able to report issues, to be able to articulate when things are going wrong. Align conversations amongst all, not just in the boardroom with a senior member of staff, but also with the floor workers. Target effort, look for those big win areas and work on those areas. And then emphasize success, the positives that come out of situations, whether it's incentives, whether it's those boards that recognize performers, or whether it's as an organization realizing that your remuneration scheme is not good enough, and maybe you need to find another way to make the floor workers become owners in the organization, not just workers. So yes, it's funny that Jane had a very similar picture, but it talks to typically what happens when you have a non-existent or a very poor organizational culture. There are people who believe there's us and there's them, and that's what this basically articulates.
Thank you, Najib. I'm going to just ask you, absolutely. Again, I think some key points. 4 years since the procure or the acquisition of the company. I think what I find the most interesting about her presentation is the fact that this policy and these values and these those things that are on the wall in reception. We actually do those things. I'm being facetious, but I mean, that's the point. I think many companies have that information, and it was drawn up a few years ago, but we don't actually live it. We don't do what we said we were going to do. We do other stuff. And the whole idea is to make sure that what we've written down is really who we are, and we are authentic at the end of the day. One awkward question. What has RCL Foods done differently since the social media and the 4th of March and all of that?
Okay, what we've done differently. So I think when 4th of March hit, especially because we had started working on trying to find or contribute to this problem in December, we stepped back and asked ourselves, are we really doing enough? And we questioned our processes. And basically, we took the decision to say if there was more that could be done, we needed to do it. So one such example is with our Vienna plant, which is completely different to our polony plants, which was implicated. Till today, there's no rainbow polonies on the line because as a food safety and quality executive, I said, if you are asking me for the best solution, it's called HPP. It costs you 40 million. And if you're going to believe in that solution, you will not put Viennas on the shelf until you get it. And so it's not there. It will probably only come out in January. So we looked for areas within the facility where we could improve. One of our sites that is very old, that would have required a lot of money in terms of getting it up to standards, is actually closing down. Because we believe that if we need to spend X amount of money just to fix it, we might as well build something new from scratch. And that's underway. So there were very hard decisions that were made in terms of going forward, what is going to make us best in class. Supply chain is not happy about the fact that anything ready to eat out of, in terms of long life, has to go through positive release. But it's a decision we're going to take to be able to give assurance and to get trust from, to have consumers trust in our brands. So yes, there's some very, very hard decisions that were made in terms of stepping up. Upping the ante to say at the end of the day, best in class means going over and beyond what is minimally required.
I don't think we need to say any more. Ladies, thank you. Thank you so much for being so open and honest.